Welcome, everyone, to the Board of Directors meeting of Trinity Metro. I call the meeting to order. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise and say the pledge?
Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next order of business is citizen comments. Do we have any record of anybody asking? Anybody here wish to speak? Hearing none, the public hearing for citizen comments is closed. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes for January 17th? I'll entertain a motion. Motion. Second. And a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We have several information items. I guess the first one really is kind of it's on me. The RTC does many things, and a couple things it did last month was have a little seminar for some of our staff members to talk about funding. I think it's real positive, and we have a good relationship in getting those things done. The other thing that we approved, and we're talking about East Lancaster Corridor. What was approved was the technological corridor funding by submitting a RAISE grant. So I think that might be a little premature to submit that without having made a decision on the mode. But I just want to give you all a heads up that that passed, and they're trying to get a RAISE grant to do a technology corridor with no discussion about BRT. Other than that, it was a pretty normal meeting. So let's go to Human Resources. Kelly? Freebie? Have nothing? Thank you. AJ?
Can you hear me? All right, so I'm very brief. I just want to give everyone an update. During the winter storms, you may have heard, TexRail, we delivered over 4,000 people on that train during the freeze. So we averaged over 1,000 people per day, which was really something good to see. Those people were having to get to work, and a lot of them worked there at either Grapevine or at the airport. I could tell you year to date, if you're wondering about ridership, year to date we're up 63,457 riders. That's a 34% increase year over year. If you look at our ridership for the past 4 months, all of FY23, they're in the top 7 all-time ridership months. December of 2022 was our highest ever. January, this last month, closed out as the second highest ever. So we're seeing tremendous momentum in our ridership. A couple things I want to talk about real quick, just give you all a heads up of some things going on TexRail. We will be transitioning here in the very near future over at Grapevine and Smithfield. You may be aware that we arrive the same track, arriving and departing. What we're going to do for the ease of the customers and provide consistency all the way across the corridor is track 1 is going to be dedicated for westbound moves. Track 2 will be dedicated for eastbound moves. So we'll roll that out. That's just going to be something consistent that the customers have talked to us about, and we're listening to them. We're going to make that modification. I could also tell you there's been some questions. Maybe people in your area asked that question as well. We do not, to this date, in all of last year, no hazardous material went across the TexRail territory. Just to give you a heads up on that one. Callaway Cemetery, you may be aware of it. It has been a hotspot of a very unsafe crossing that we've dealt with for the last decade. And I can tell you they have completely redesigned it, and we're going to do a cutover on the 26th, here in a couple days, we're going to do that cutover. And that will actually, number one, we've had to put a slow order on it. 45 miles per hour is max speed because of the unsafe conditions. We're actually, once we put this new one in, we'll be at 79 miles per hour, so that'll help the commute across the territory. Last thing, March 19th, Medical Market District or Drive over in Dallas. We're going to be cutting that in. That's going to give us back our multiple mains, so double main track right there. Right now, it's while they were doing the construction, TxDOT, we were down to a single track, so we'll add double track there. Are there any questions?
I have a couple. Are these on, or we have them? Okay, cool. What's the status? I might be stepping on our vice chair's toes over there. What's the status on the regating timings for North Richland Hills? You had talked about it at our last meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've already taken some steps on that one. We tried to do the full Monty at one time. So what we did was they're all tied in. So when we tried to undax it, blew a hole in the universe. And it caused other issues outside of that. So we didn't do that. However, we made some other modifications that brought that time down 15 seconds. Once we get the preemption, because the challenge becomes working with the city of North Richland Hills, they've got to go in and modify the preemption from their signaling system, traffic signal system, in order for it to work, because that was the problem that was happening. So we're actually actively working with them, and we think, within the next month, we should be able to have that ironed out.
Fantastic. And then I had somebody recently asked me, and you brought up the medical stop in Dallas, in the healthcare district. I know that they provide shuttles for Parkland and UT Southwest personnel from that station to the hospitals, but they said that there is no active shuttles or communications that are transport that DART is providing for patients and families visiting patients there. I would challenge that might be something we look into as an opportunity of people taking our trains over there to visit family members and whatnot, aren't able to get from the station to the hospitals. I've not experienced firsthand, but it was something brought up to me of could we look into. So
Absolutely.
I extended that to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony. All right.
An update, and if there's a different person that should do it, how about an update on Trinity Lakes?
So I think Chad's got that lined up. You got a presentation on that?
AJ, you said Grapevine and Smithfield, track 1 west, track 2.
I'll get the details, yes.
Okay.
Track one will be our eastbound, track 2 will be westbound. I'll get you the details. I may be getting those mixed up.
Also, the other question I always have is parking and how parking numbers are going.
So I sent that out. I don't have it off the top of my head. I've got the email. I didn't see the one that he sent out yesterday. He sent a new one out yesterday. I think you're seeing it. I know at Smithfield the other day, we were about full. We're actually extending, you may be aware that during the holidays, we extended the number of parking places. So we're going to go ahead and carry that over to spring break because we anticipate a lot of people wanting to utilize it. So yes, particularly at the Smithfield and TMP, it is very, very successful. And I anticipate having to permanently increase those number of long-term parking places here in the very near future.
Any other questions?
Real quick, just one more. I didn't realize we were through. I wanted to thank Reed and Antonio for working with our Northeast Chamber leadership group. We took about 25 to 30 people from the leadership group from the Iron Horse Station to the airport and then back to Grapevine to spend a day at Grapevine working on legislative stuff and other stuff. And I want to thank Antonio and Reed for working with Angie at the Chamber, and for Reed for riding the train and giving us a briefing on TexRail and what's going on with TexRail. So I think we've developed some new riders. In fact, I've had a few people that were on that ride tell me that they hadn't been on TexRail before, but they've since experienced it. So thank you. Great way to reach out for new riders.
Yeah, and I would just, to the rest of the board, if you have in your communities, a chamber or a group, we would love to have them on TexRail, give them, the experience of TexRail, as well as give them a quick class, let them know what we're all about. Because the more we're able to spread that word, Rich has tasked me with 1 million riders, tasked the team with 1 million riders on TexRail. So we're looking about $650,000 this year, so any help, would be appreciated.
One rider at a time.
Sir.
Selling. Thank you. Wayne, you're up, I believe. Talk about the new bus stop.
All right, so we got a million reasons why we want to get to that, don't we? Very good. Thanks, AJ. Good afternoon, everybody, board, chairman, and I'm here to present first. I want to just real briefly present some KPI information. I won't go through the slides or the deck of the KPIs. I assume you saw them. If not, I'm just going to give you a real briefing, short briefing. So with regards to reliability for January, our on-time performance, both access in-house and contract made their goal. Fixed route was 1/10 of a point behind 91% on-time performance, so great job by the team. Miles between row calls, all lines of services achieved that goal. So again, another great job by our maintenance team. Safety, all lines of services had 0 AFR in the month of January. 0 is a great number. AFR is accident frequency ratio for those that don't know that terminology. So a great number there. When it comes to all collisions together, we just had one in January with access with regards to not making their goal. All the other lines made their goal. That's for the category that has all collisions, minor and major. And last but not least, I do want to do a shout out for our team during the winter ice storm that we just recently came through. We didn't have any collisions during that period. A lot of stuck buses. We went and got all of them. And I was there with the team digging people out and making it safe for our passengers. We had about 2,500 riders a day on bus. So it's not like we weren't carrying anybody. We were carrying people. It was very necessary trips, and I shout out to the team. They did a great job. Any questions on the KPIs? Hearing none, I think we're going to information item with myself. All right, so if you turn to page 5 of 75, you'll see the new bus stops at Hempel and Maddox. And just give you just a short background with regards to the bus shelter and amenities program. Beginning in October of 2022, we gathered a small group of employees consisting of planning, engineering, procurement, facilities, and operations to discuss the initiative to upgrade our bus stops and bus amenities. We wanted to make it more modern, safe, and providing real-time bus arrival information to our customers. So I did just a quick outline, and I'm very proud of what we did. Again, we started in October 2022. In January, if you look at the timeline, at the end of January 2023, we installed bus stop prototypes on Hempel. And very proud to do that. It's not easy to get things done quickly, especially when you're dealing with manufacturers. The manufacturer was really hesitant to work with us until we talked to them and had an open and honest discussion with them. And what do you know, we got the prototypes here and set up. So I was very pleased with that. But real shortly, prototypes researched in October 22, bus stop review November 22, inventoried all the stops along our lines. We engaged the manufacturers in November 2022. Installation of prototypes on Hempel Route 1 on January 2023. We're issuing an RFP no later than May 10th. I would like to move that up. We've had discussions about that last week. It looks like we might be able to get it moved up, and what I meant by moving it up, get it out on the street earlier, get the responses back, review. And really what I'd like to do is come to the board and discuss a board action in June so that we could start moving installation project in August. And then I have some other goals, but we'll go on with them later on with regards to the program. You can see the old was the slide before, the old green shelters that we have. They've been around for quite a while, benches and bus signs. If you go to the next slide, you'll see what we came up with regards to the new prototypes. I think of interest for you is you can see it's clear in the back. That's glass. And it's so that people could see both ways and everybody knows what's in and around them. I think it's key to what we're trying to deliver to our customers. A safe, secure area, the lighting on the top of the shelter you can see, there's plenty of shade. And then the bench, it's a small bench, but it's a bench that's adequate for what we'll have at the bus stops. And if need be, we could always put an additional bench. We have the other type of bench where you could add to the system if you wanted to. And then you can see the bus stop, and that bus stop at the top of it is lighting, and then there'll be e-paper arrival information on selected bus stops, and that would be the high-volume bus stops where we have a lot of people going through them, so people will be able to look up and know exactly when the bus is coming. So we're very excited about the program. We're working with marketing. There are going to be opportunities for customers of ours to go visit the bus stops and to then do a survey with regards to their likes, dislikes. We'll incorporate that in the RFP, and then we'll let that on the street so that we can better serve our customers. One other slide, please. There's not a picture of this last slide. Hopefully it made it. Nope, didn't. I'll just pass it around if you want to take a look at it. It's in the packet? Okay. All right, so that picture is a design that we're trying to work with the manufacturer, one of the manufacturers, on some of our lower volume shelters where we can give shade to people, give some seating to folks as well, provide them the e-paper if that's necessary to provide them more information. But it's smaller, less costly, but provides opportunity to sit, get some shade, and at least enjoy their wait for their bus. So that's another opportunity for us that we'll have out on the street here soon. So with that, is there any questions?
Yeah, what's the cost?
So we're in the middle. First off, we have to do the RFP to get the real cost. We have an estimate of about $14,000 per shelter, and that's the big shelter, but that includes pad work and a bunch of other work that we don't believe we're going to be doing. We believe the city is going to help us, that Rich has talked to others, and so it'll be less than that. I'll be able to give you a firm number when I come back with a board action item so that you understand what the cost of the program is going to be. We plan on doing the program, touch all the bus stops in 3 years, and then if there's any additional growth, that'll be year 4 and 5.
Just in view, and straighten up the numbers a little bit for me. In East Fort Worth, we have a number of stops that are pretty close to each other and very poorly marked. I mean, most cases, they just have a single sign that says bus stop. And as I recall, we have like 2,000 bus stops last time I heard. Are we really right-sized with the number of bus stops we have and their proximity to each other?
Excellent point, and let me tell you what we're doing. First off, we're going to use data. Chad and his group and my group are looking at the data. We're going to use data to determine what we should put at each bus stop. I'm going to agree with you. There are bus stops, because I've seen the initial data, and again, it wasn't vetted or anything, but the initial data, we showed stops where we don't have any boardings. And we understand where they're at along the lines. What we're going to work on first in year 1 are the heavily utilized routes and stops. That's what we're going to attack first, because that's where the majority of our customer base is. And then we're going to determine along the way, to your point, what bus stops should stay, what bus stops should go, or what should that bus stop look like. Both of our teams are going to work on that to make sure we get that. Because we don't want to be wasting dollars. We want to put dollars where it's necessary. And to your point, you have to know data to understand that.
Well, good.
Yeah, I did. When you said bigger bus stops, I just wanted, before I launched in, was that the one that has this? Is that this one with the clear seat?
Yeah, so that's the larger shelters where we'll have higher volume boardings. So we're looking at boardings, not the alightings. The alightings when you get off the bus, but we're looking at boardings to determine where should we have the larger shelters with bench or whatnot.
Sure. No, I just want to say thanks for getting into this program. I think we all, when we're driving our car down the street and look and see someone that's out in the heat and the elements, et cetera, and this is their primary transportation, feel a little guilty of sorts. And that's probably not the best adjective, but I'm glad we're putting some money into infrastructure so we can better take care of our riders. So thank you for that. What I will say too, thank you for working in our major corridors. For me, the Camp Bowie district, I know y'all met with the Camp Bowie district. You know, it's Como and then out. People do utilize those major arterials, and so focusing there, and I think also larger trash receptacles, that will help with that. I think too, just that this all to me goes back to quality of life, that we are giving a better quality of life for the users and the end users and across the board. So I really appreciate that we're putting a focus on that.
Thank you. And we totally agree. It's absolutely about the customer and making their life better and giving them information and security.
Can I add to Michael's point? He referenced people for whom this is their primary mode of transportation. And I just want to underscore how important it is that we also think about people for whom this is choice transportation.
Yeah.
Because if it's easier and more comfortable for me to get in my car, that's likely what I'm going to do. And as we continue to think about like building ridership and establishing trust in the community and being a resource for the community, it's just as important for us to think about the folks like Harrison, who we want to
He'll be on
get
that
on
bus
the bus.
eventually.
Because I would stand there. I'd stand right there. I wouldn't have stood at the green stops, but I'll stand there. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's a team effort. It was a team effort. I mean, everybody put their heads together and we worked diligently to make it happen and get something in the ground by end of January.
So, I do have a question. So you said it's glass. Is it like safety glass? Obviously, I think of things differently. So is it safety glass, plexiglass? Is somebody going to be able to be thrown through it in the event something happens? It become a danger to anybody that is there.
So it's tempered and we haven't thrown anything at it yet. Maybe.
I see a challenge. Challenge accepted.
So I will say this. This is the one concern that we all have as an organization. Yes, we don't want anybody injured, right? Don't want any of that to happen. We have used a polymer on other shelters, and they fade and they really don't look great. So we went with glass because in many major markets like New York City, they use glass. And we said, well, if they could last in New York City, surely they're going to last here in Fort Worth. Now,
But they're tempered safety, something that
Yes.
does break is not going to
Right.
injure somebody
Right.
severely. So, okay. That's it.
so to us, we thought, okay, it's got to be safe, and we want to give security to people so they could know their surroundings, and that's what we're attempting to do. So we can, if we need to, change out, by the way, if we had to some other method on these shelters. So in other words, if we had to go back to different screen, we could do that. We made sure there were options, but this was our preferred option.
Yeah, no, I agree with glasses. Most
Oh, I-
people would be happy to be able to see what's behind them. I know I do. So I
Right.
just want to make sure it's safe and
Yeah.
that something does happen there that nobody else gets injured in the process.
Absolutely.
Wayne, I love the designs of both of these. I would ask, just as a rogue idea, in July, August, air circulation is number one kicker when you're standing outside.
Sure.
And I would be curious if in this design, and especially in the Toller easy one design that we want to put more of them out, if there's a way to put a solar activated fan that ties to that panel, when the panel's getting full sun is when we need air circulating. So we don't need, we don't need super sophistication, just something that might be able to give a little bit of air movement to whomever is sitting in that hot box, especially with the giant glass wall behind them.
Sure.
No idea what modern design is on that, but that's just some ideas.
Yep. We'll certainly have that in the RFP. We'll ask for different options that, if we need to add that during the process, we can do it. But I'll make sure we get it in the RFP.
Questions for Wayne? Thank you.
All right.
Melissa? Hurry up now, Melissa.
I know. Good afternoon, everybody. My report is in your packets. I wasn't going to go through it unless there were any questions.
Get the highlights.
What's that?
Get a few highlights.
Well, I think the highlights is actually in my information item, if you want to move into that. everybody has already said everything. We've been doing a lot of campaigns to increase ridership that have been very successful. January is always a little bit weird when it comes to Easy Ride revenue, which is kind of what I've been touting for the last several months. And really what you see is in January, you see a little bit of decrease in revenue and ticket sales, and that's just because everybody has bought their annual passes in December. So usually January, February are a little quieter. We start seeing it pick back up in March. And you know, if you really wanted the big story of what we were up to in January, it is on page 15 of your packets. And I think some of you, did any of you come to the anniversary event in January? I can't remember, I've slept since then. But our team did a really, really great job celebrating TexRail's 4th anniversary. We were out at stations across the corridor. We were at North Richland Hills, Grapevine, and Fort Worth Central Station. We had entertainment, we had live music, we had stilt walkers. You can see in that bottom photo to the top right of our logo. I mean, really, you came up to the stations and it was just a sight to be had. In North Richland Hills at Iron Horse especially, I was really taken aback because we actually had people come out specifically to say, I knew this train was here, but I didn't know what it was all about, so I heard you were doing this event, and so I wanted to come talk to you. And, you know, we love to hear that. We consider that a result of the direct mail piece that we did that you can see on the top right-hand side of the page. And then, you know, we did free rides for that week, which I think you heard, you know, AJ talk about how great ridership was looking in January. And, you know, we like to think that these activities had a small hand to play in that. So that was something really fun last month.
And thank you for what you did at North Richland Hills, and I think it was really important because in the old days, when you drove down Iron Horse, you could see the station.
Now you can't.
Now you can't see the station. And so it was a great opportunity to draw those residents that are moving into those apartments and single-family homes down to the station. So thank you for
Yes.
doing that. And the free tickets was a big hit.
Thank you. And of course, Antonio was out with us in NRH too. So he's been, it seems like you've been at the middle of everything we've been doing, huh? But thank you, Tito. It was a really great celebration. All right. I think they exceed the height requirements. They might not get underneath the low-hanging bridges. All right, so Christina, am I going to move on to the information item? Okay. I could read to you about the information item, but it's very little text. You'll see it starts on page 17. But really what's more important is seeing the video. So we'll let Christine get that pulled up for us. There it is. And some of you might have seen this at the city council meeting that Rich presented at back on the 7th. So I think that's just a sampling of things we did in 2022, but definitely highlights that everybody should be really, really proud of. I mean, everything that's up there, I think everybody in this room had a little hand in, so it's great to be able to celebrate that. And now that you've seen this, we'll distribute it far and wide and just tell our success story.
Are we gonna put it out as reels on, is that what the kids say? Reels on Insta?
Might be a little long for a reel, but we'll get it. We
Paul
will.
wants to lead a TikTok for Trinity Metro.
We've been trying to get TikTok up and running, so if you're our guy, Paul.
I'm out.
So-
I've known this since AJ spoke earlier, because I knew you were coming, and I wanted to share this directly with you. And I'm sure that in your brilliant mind, you've already thought of this, and you probably already have done something around leveraging existing partnerships and relationships to spread the word about Trinity Metro. AJ talked about the goal being, what was it, 1 million folks on text rail? And I was sitting in church a few weeks ago at a special event, and here comes a 12 to 15 second video, not produced by the church, not related to the church, but it was about Girls Inc. or Girls Club or Girls Somebody something. And I thought, how genius is that to take all these captive audiences, connect with them, share them, whatever collateral we have, video collateral that we have, and ask them to just share it with their constituencies. And when we think about that long list of partners that we've been developing and working to, it just seems like low-hanging fruit to be able to say, did you know about TextRail? Here's a 15-second video to tell you, like, hop on our trains.
Sure, no, that's a great idea, and I would love it if, we could add that to the dashboard that this group all has access to that could help, who said it earlier, it's such a great word, but evangelize what we're doing here, right? Yeah, but that's great, Charlotte, thank you.
Would it be possible for a large, a church of any type in our community to be part of the Easy Ride program where they could?
Yes. Put it on your list, guys. And you should have, I know we sent last week the Easy Ride brochure and some of the language for, anybody that you would want to reach out to in your network that you think would benefit from that discount program. All we need is to facilitate an email introduction, and I'll go out, Antonio will go out, Deetra will go out, whoever it is can go out and talk to everybody.
Volunteer myself and Chris as the resident church evangelicals to support that efforts, particularly in our southeast Fort Worth corridor. There you go, our community. Yep,
Why, thank you.
you're welcome.
My plate is completely empty.
I know it is, so I'm gonna help you.
Okay.
And Charlotte, I would love to welcome more churches into the program that could really benefit of having transportation taken out of the equation as a barrier to get them to their, whether it's a church service, stores, healthcare, whatever it might be. So however we can help support that for you all.
Chris and I will come up with some ideas.
Charlotte, I wouldn't mind helping out too.
Do you go to church?
Not Church's Fried Chicken.
Of course.
Still on the record.
We're all on it.
Melissa, I have a question. I'm concerned about how we stand with other transit agencies in Texas in bringing back our ridership.
You're concerned about our ridership recovery in comparison with other agencies? Texas, where Trinity Metro is actually leading the way with ridership recovery when compared to the other transit agencies in Texas. We're currently, I was going to say only 15% non-recovered from before COVID, which is leaps and bounds above the next transit agency. Well, Chad was over there whispering in my ear, so I had to, we're 85% recovered.
There it is. Way more market.
Any other?
What would I do without you?
Melissa?
And if
Thank
you
you,
get
Melissa.
random questions from other agencies that are Impact, formerly known as Revolution partner agencies, please don't be surprised, because I did share our recovery in our last work group meeting.
Oh, good.
With about 25 other agencies and organizations from across the country.
What was the feedback?
How did we do it?
Great.
I didn't answer that. I just said we're awesome like that.
Great, it's great customer service, right?
Call them and ask them how we did it.
There you go.
Any other questions for Melissa?
Thank you. We'll make sure that the board has access to that video too.
Perfect, thank you.
Deidre, community engagement.
Good afternoon, board members. Deidre Whitmore, VP of Community Engagement, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. My report starts on page 18, and I will highlight a couple of things in my report, but if you have any questions on anything that you see in the report, please feel free to ask. First of all, I want to highlight, well, this is the first time I haven't had the opportunity to come with you with new numbers for Vanpool. We are holding steady at 184 van pools. The team's working really well in getting other prospects. So hopefully next month we'll have some new participants in our program and we'll have our numbers go up. Secondly, if you would turn to page 23, I want to take this time to thank our board member, Ben Robertson, for not only spending 1 hour or 2 hours, but an entire shift as a transit envoy on a Saturday. And he actually did this after he was up all night from the rodeo on Friday night, the night before. Ben, you were able to put yourself in the customer's shoes, looking through the lens of our customers, coming up with great ideas of how we can improve our customers' experience. You spent time with Rudy, one of our rock star transit envoys, gave her an opportunity to really connect with you. Being an envoy, coming in from the time they come in, getting ready for the day, filling their backpacks with as much information as they think the customer may ask for, and being out there at the train stations, on the platforms, Central Station. So you really did a great deed for her. For us in general, that's what the envoys do. They're out in the community connecting with our customers. I think you all connected with over 60 people that day, and that's just a slow day. But at this time, Ben, would you please come forward? So Ben created a wow moment. He created a wow moment for Rudy. Rudy was able to work with a board member. She was able to showcase what she does every day. Ben, you also created a wow moment for our drivers on Route 89 in the Dash. Also creating a wow moment for our security team at Forward Central Station. And you created a wow moment for me, even volunteering to be a transit envoy. He has a t-shirt, he has a polo, he has a backpack, he has all the gear. So I would like to present you the most valuable board member wow moment certificate. Thank you so much.
I want to comment back. Let me get back my microphone. You know, this was Deidre's idea, and she and I have talked for quite a while that you can't be a leader without truly understanding everything that you're involved with. And Deidre recommended the Envoy program because they truly do touch our entire system, which she had always said, but I didn't know until 12 hours and 9,300 steps that was true. And riding multiple buses, I even, Rudy let me ride the articulating bus because she said I was going to enjoy that one the most. She was right. It's really cool right there in the center where it turns. You know, I learned a lot about the greatness of all of our staff. I always get exposed to our executive staff. Y'all have always impressed me. Y'all know that. And you've always said good things about the other personnel that we have throughout our entire system. But seeing them firsthand, the engagement of one of our drivers with one of our customers getting on the bus and needing a little bit extra assistance, and it wasn't even a will they, won't they, it was an automatic. They stepped out, they did what they needed to do. I was even more impressed than I already have been with our system by spending that 12-hour shift. And yes, it was on the heels of co-chairing Fiesta Night, which was a lot of commitment, but I wouldn't have traded that day with Rudy and with your team and the knowledge gain for anything. And I would challenge, you know, none of y'all have to do a 12-hour shift. I would challenge all of y'all to spend a little time with our Envoy program to understand their interaction and the engagement with our system, because I think it will help us be better leaders amongst the staff that's already leading an awesome program. And before I agreed to do this with Deidre, I checked with Rich, and Rich, you know, obviously blessed it and thought it was a great idea. And I'm just continually impressed with everything that we do. And I can now, as a board member, say I have touched every type of transit that we offer, including a zip zone that day, which I had never done before, but Rudy promised me it was gonna be okay. It wasn't as scary as I thought it might be. It was great. It was just new and different. And I just, I thank you again for affording me that opportunity, Petra. So thank you
Very
so
welcome.
much.
And also, thank you for sending in your suggestions. Also, looking through the lens of the customer, you were able to point out some things of how we can better put our signage at Central Station, and also having Spanish as a second language. How cool is that if we can offer that to our employees? So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at. And also the environment that our employees work in. How can we make it pleasant for them when they're coming to work, coming to a great place to work? So thank you for your insight, and we are following up on that.
Awesome, thank you.
That's your report? Okay. Terrific. And thank you again.
You'll be famous one day, that's fine.
Okay, Chad.
Good afternoon. Very quickly, if we can, I just want to highlight, I know I talked to you about the dashboard before. I want to highlight and remind you, in case you haven't looked at the dashboard, this gives you a chance to do that as they're pulling it up here quickly. Oh, I need to quit moving the mouse. Anyway, while we're doing that, we had 526,756 rides last month, 32% increase from January to January. So it's a really great number. That's all modes. AJ kind of mentioned the TexRail. We had a great increase in TexRail as well. And then our bus, we had 313,000 rides on the bus. So I'll highlight very quickly the bus ridership. We see there are 313,000 rides. This is year over year. You can see where we're at. January, we didn't get that big dip like we've had in previous Februaries with ice storms. So we're anticipating, we're almost done with February. And so hopefully we don't have a dip in February this year like we've had in previous years. We've added a little feature here. This is all the year-over-year information. So if you look down here, January to January, 27.9%. You change that month to month, you see that change now shows you what it is from this month to that month, nearly 2.5%. So like I said last time, we're evolving this dashboard so that you can see this information at your leisure whenever you want to pull it up. It's online. It's for everybody to see, not just the board. So any riders, any elected officials in your cities, whatever that is, they can come see this information. So thank you for showing that. A couple items very quickly before we get into the information items. There's several of us here that attended the Tarrant Transportation Summit last week. Hosted by Commissioner Fickus. There was a keynote speaker, Robert Poole, who's the Director of Transportation Policy from the Reason Foundation. And he was the lone person that was really kind of touting transit in the group, where most of the other presentations were build roads. There's a lot of talk about the managed lanes and how well they do their job in alleviating congestion on the roadways. It was Mr. Poole who said, hey, yes, it does all of that all these other people said earlier in the day, but it's also a great opportunity for BRT and express buses to get people along those corridors just as quickly. So we appreciate Mr. Poole's discussion on that. Additionally, we've been talking about, yes, sir. Nope, not at all. No, he was allowed to continue to speak.
Did you tell him that he was also offered the opportunity to testify in Austin?
That's right. He was offered, and I don't think he realized he was going to get taken up on that offer. We've been talking a lot recently, and the chairman brought it up in his opening remarks about the East Lancaster corridor. The city has kicked off their East Lancaster corridor and sub-regional study. I'm participating in that as a steering committee member, and just as a, being a participant in that, trying to get the transit component of that particular project the way that we've identified it, essentially as a BRT project. And so we're continuing to work on that. It's still early in the process. There is great hope that we're going to be able to get to some sort of an alignment alternative, I should say, in probably about 2 months. I think that's optimistic because there's a lot to talk about, but I'm game if they're game on trying to get that done. So, and then the chairman also mentioned the RAISE grant. This work that the city's doing will feed into the RAISE grant that the Council of Governments is working on. And if it's not, if the information from the study doesn't necessarily provide the information in this round for the RAISE grant, the COG has said if we don't win, we'll resubmit. And I think that'll be a great opportunity to really have more definition of what the project is for the next RAISE grant, assuming we don't get it this time around. I want to mention that we're having a meeting with Forest Hill in the next week or so to talk about getting them back on board with Trinity Metro. And then my chicken scratching is so bad that I need my glasses for this last one. Oh yeah, I presented last week to the Downtown Fort Worth Inc. State of the Downtown breakfast. Very well received. It was nice to have Trinity Metro there to be able to talk about all the neat stuff that we're doing. I think I was the only one that actually stayed within my time frame. I'll know that for next time because everybody else went over their 5 minutes. I'm going to take my opportunity to talk a little bit more next time about that. While I'm up here, I'm going to go ahead and mention the GPC item, and then we'll bring up Richie and Steve on other items. You can see on page 25, there's an update on the general planning consultant. I did want to highlight that we did sign the contract on January 19th last month, and we got moving pretty quickly. Tom's here in the room today to help support us. As I was preparing for the board meeting today, I was noticing that task order 1, where I identify the draft style guide and the project management, are under review. Both of those are finalized. Task order 2.3, a draft concept, that's been finalized. Task order 3, we have a cost proposal that is being developed now. So the scope has been reviewed. The cost proposal is almost here, maybe in my email box, I don't know. Task order 4 is the same thing. Cost proposal is due this week, and so that'll be here with us shortly. And then the only thing that hasn't changed is the double tracking, where this is a pretty involved project. They're still working on finalizing the cost proposal as well. Let's see, last items here. The GPC is also helping us organize. We have a long list of projects, and so the GPC is helping us kind of prioritize those to make sure that if we're going to do a study, that whatever we need as far as information to feed into that study, we do that first. So instead of just kind of randomly doing all these studies and not having the benefit of the information, we're going to put these all in order for us as well. So looking forward to that. That'll be coming up in this next week or so as well. So next, you had mentioned, Nick, about Trinity Lakes. We have 3 items today on Trinity Lakes. One is an information item that Richie will provide an update on, and then we have 2 board action items as well for Trinity Lakes. Steve is going to give us a state legislative update, and then later on we have an action item on the Title VI program as well. So there's Richie.
Okay. Oh, I can change it? Yep. Okay. Well, good afternoon.
I guess we're going to go over an informational item for Trinity Lake Station. It's on page 24. We've got a little PowerPoint we'd like to walk through, everyone. I guess the good thing about Trinity Lakes, we are making progress. We have had challenges on the project. We're working through those. Currently, we're about 6 months behind schedule, but we are scheduled to open the station this year. So that's the good news overall. So to date, we've completed all the concrete work on the south platform. Canopies, columns have been installed. The siding track construction was completed, and we switched to the siding for operations February 6th. And it's going to continue to operate on the siding for basically 6 months. So operations will continue to operate on the siding for 6 months. We're working on an invitation for bid for the parking lot construction. We're hoping to have that issued in February. It's probably going to go into March right now. The construction timeline is 6 months for the parking lots, and substantial completion is October 23rd, or 2023 for the platform and for the station itself, and the final acceptance is January 2024. Okay, here's just basically a breakdown of the scope of what we're doing. The yellow is being done by the developer themselves. The blue is the parking lots we have to construct, and then we're doing everything in the TRE right away. Huh? Which is in red, yes. So here's just some photos of our progress. You can see the canopy foundations being installed for the south platform. Then we've got the crash wall we had to construct for 820. This is the platform being constructed on the south side as well. Then we've got the canopies being installed, the skeleton of it. And then the stairs on the west end of the south platform. And then we've got the siding track that we constructed in services, or we're running operations on it now. So as we mentioned, we've got a couple of board actions coming today. It's basically due to extending existing task orders and issuing one new task order for the parking lot construction oversight for Jacobs. The reason we're coming to you is a 6-month delay we've had so far, so we need to extend these contracts out to cover them through getting this project completed. So again, we're going to be coming to you later with the parking lot construction. Basically a contract approval for the construction of the parking lots. We're targeting March, April, and maybe May when we bring that to you. I'll take any questions.
Can we stay where we are for as long as we want to stay there?
At Richland Hills?
Yes.
Yes, we're not going to close Richland Hills until Trinity Lakes is open.
We're not penalized if we don't finish within? Okay.
No.
All right. Good.
No.
What are the specifics on the 6-month delay? Why is it, what are they attributed to?
It was a lot of things. It was permitting, right of entry issues. It was inefficiencies by the contractor. We have entered into a supplemental agreement covering the time with the contractor. We both shared risk there, so basically it's a no-cost change, just to extend the time of the contract right now, or the 6 months. But we've got to pick up the additional cost to extend the oversight, both engineering and construction management. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Pleased to be able to give you a quick update on the legislative activities. Before I get into it, I did want to point out that Chad volunteered me to be the crash test dummy on the glass for the, so I'm your guy. So the legislature, as we talked about last time, convened on January 10th. We're 43 days in, 97 to go. Again, not that I'm counting. Since our last meeting, the House and the Senate, despite being a third of the way through, not a lot has happened. We're sort of in the early stages of that crescendo of work before 60 days. So I'll get into that in a minute. But the House and the Senate committees have been appointed. I'm pleased to report that our local delegation have landed in some important committee assignments from our perspective. Our local Senator Kelly Hancock retains a position on Senate Transportation, which is important, has been appointed to Finance Committee, which is important for our region. He's the only Tarrant County senator on any of the appropriations committees, and he retains his chairmanship of the Veterans Committee. Our new senator, Senator King, has also been appointed as Senate Transportation, and our new Senator Parker from the northeast part of Tarrant County is also on Senate Transportation. So we've got some great representation there. On the House side, Representative Romero has been reappointed to the House Transportation Committee. He continues to be a champion for us. Very pleased with that. Representative Goldman is the chair of House Energy Resources. Not something specific to us, but it's part of leadership. So it's good to have a local rep that's in the leadership ranks. And then finally, Representative Cook from South Tarrant County, Mansfield, South Fort Worth, is on House Calendars Committee, which is a very crucial tactical committee for us. We're still within that 60-day constitutional period where bills can't be heard or debated or voted on unless they're emergency items. So beyond a couple of the appropriations bills, really nothing is moving. They're just being referred to committee. Having said that, though, the leadership in Austin has articulated their priorities, so I just kind of want to highlight those. The Lieutenant Governor has listed about 30 items that are on his priority list. They include what you would expect: a budget, property tax relief, improvements to the electric grid, workforce enhancements, and expanding access to mental health, which are all very important for our state, and a host of other issues that are kind of key to his core constituency. The governor, in a recent State of the City address, discussed property tax cuts as one of his priorities, ending COVID restrictions, school safety, border security. The Speaker of the House has not issued a list of priorities, but he's indicated through some of his low-numbered bills, as we call them, some of his priorities, and primarily he's looking at consumer data security, things you might get on social media and their information and what they do with it. So to date, almost 3,700 bills have been filed, about 1,100 in the Senate, about 2,700 in the House. So far, only a handful of these really potentially impact Trinity Metro. None of them really directly, but many of them potentially could if they were altered slightly. So we want to keep a close watch on them. Nothing really harmful, nothing really helpful either. I want to highlight two constitutional amendment proposals. They're called SJRs or HJRs, joint resolutions. And they would add public transportation, public bicycle paths, and public sidewalks to the list of projects that in which dedicated general revenue that is transferred to the state highway fund could be used for. Right now, it's just public roadways and no tollways. So the addition of public transportation would be a great thing for us. But I do want to highlight that SJRs, HJRs require 2/3 votes in both houses to pass before they even get on the ballot. So I'm not holding my breath for those, but they would be nice. I want to highlight a Trinity Metro specific bill that's being carried for us by Representative Romero in the House and Senator King in the Senate. The bill is in Ledge Council now, which is the drafting body within the legislature. I did speak to the drafting attorney on Friday with some technical questions he had. But I'm hoping to get the bill in hand this week and get it filed. So a bill we'll be watching closely, and Shirley will be quite happy with me if I manage to get that passed. As I mentioned, the 60-day benchmark of March 10th is coming up. That's really in most of our minds, that's when the official flag in terms of starting happens. And that's when you'll see the nice, calm, cool, collected Steve become that crazy guy Steve, because it really will ramp up in terms of activity. While I got you, I want to give a quick update on our city council elections here in Fort Worth. As you know, we're moving from 9 to 11 council members. Filing on the ballot, for a place on the ballot, closed last Friday. Pleased to report that council members Nettles, Crane, and Flores did not draw opponents. Congratulations, gentlemen.
It just means no one's silly enough to want to do this job. That's what it really means.
I didn't say that. I think you're doing a stellar job of representing your constituency. And in other council races, including for the mayor, there are about 27 candidates who've indicated their intent to run. That number may go down as people decide to drop out, but it won't go up. But while we're talking about, and I want to circle back to this, I was on a government affairs committee meeting for the Fort Worth Real Estate Council this morning, and they're crafting. They're going to do candidate questionnaires and interviews, and they've come up with about a dozen questions. And I'm very pleased to report that they're including a question about public transportation and finding out candidates' positions on that. So I was very pleased to hear that. I'm sure that the chairman had something to do with that. On the issue also of no opponents, I'm pleased to report that Councilmember Tito Rodriguez has not drawn an opponent. So congratulations. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations on getting Senator King, new Senator King, to help sponsor our bill, because I think that's a big plus.
Thank you.
And I think the 3 addition of our regional senators to the Transportation Committee are also going to be a big plus.
Thank you.
Including my favorite and my senator, Kelly Hancock.
Yes, sir.
So, does Senator King envision ever having any public transportation in any corridor going west? Just check it.
I've not asked that question. I'll probe that. Thank you.
Red?
Fred Crosley, Financial Officer at Trinity Metro. I'll point you to pages 28 and 29 for the basic financial statements, and then 30 for the notes. Like I did last month, I'll caution you that these are kind of early in the year, sort of where we're at with things. And, we try to take a hard look at where we're at and try to analyze where we think we're going to be, but it's very best guess at this particular point in time in terms of where we're at. Talk a little bit about sales tax collections. They're up 12% over fiscal year 22 and about 7% over our budget for fiscal year 23. That's the regular sales tax. So that's about $1.8 million roughly. In terms of Grapevine, thank you, Paul. Sales tax contributions last month were 5% over 22 and 12% for year-to-date over budget, or about $200,000 for the fiscal year. So all good news on that side of stuff. You can take a look at some of the variations that we reported on the notes. You'll notice that the fair revenue, excuse me, that we're reporting is really based on our budget with a spread that's based on, excuse me, with a spread throughout the year based on fiscal year 19. Pre-COVID, just trying to get our best estimate in terms of some of those numbers. Our total budget for the year is roughly $8.2 million, just over 8. If you annualize the $1.4 million, you'll see we'll come up about $2 million short. That's not reflective of anything because there's too many variables after to go through for the rest of the year. In particular, things like what's the timing of corporate buys, large bulk purchases, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, we're just doing our best job at spreading out those fair revenues over the year based on trends. Trends don't hold up, so I'm not overly concerned about reaching our goal for the year, frankly. In terms of the balance sheet, everything's pretty normal, copacetic, still strong, good cash flow at this particular point in time in terms of financing new operations. We're still working with our friends at the FTA to get our money, and it doesn't seem to be moving at all. We're still in the same, when you look at the website, it's still in final concurrence and approval stage, and it's been there for several months. So they'll get to it. When they get to it, it's holding up about $40 million, $45 million. We should be getting our split letter for 5307 money. That's the formulary money. Hopefully next week from COG, and we'll see how that compares with the budget. Obviously, that has to go through the whole process, and once again, so we won't see any of those funds till next year. So we had some carryover from last year that we didn't get. We're probably going to have some good news, hopefully, this week for next year, and you know, with interest rates now at about 5%, you know, approaching 5% on CDs, 40 million, you can do the math. It's a big number for us. So we're doing everything we can on our side of things, but even with the region, it's all FTAs understaffed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So away we go. About ready to kick off our budget season. We'll do that with a meeting on March 8th, and then we'll start pushing that through. We'll use some of the February numbers to do that in terms of expense ratios, and we'll tighten up the revenue side of things as we go, and working with the city and other players. Our triennial examination is underway, as I spoke last month. So we're, at this particular point in time, we have a entrance date in the exam of May 15th and a conclusion date sometime the week of the 22nd of May. Now, what that means is between now and the 15th of May, we will be working with the auditors, answering questions and going through the process. So essentially in that first week, they'll present us with here's where we are, sort of a report. Here's the issues, if there is any. Here's our comments. Let's try to firm these up in the next 2 weeks, and they'll do kind of a final report that will be then given about 90 days to respond. This is normal sort of process. We're doing it all on the internet, webcams and stuff like that. So it'll be an interesting process. With that, I'll answer any questions. Sorry?
Keep the sales tax coming in.
All? You heard it.
We're doing our best.
Okay. That's what I like to hear.
See Melissa there again next weekend. Is Melissa still there?
You know, inflation.
Next weekend, right? We need it.
So she'll help move the
Yeah, we'll move the needle.
Yeah, well, you know, inflation is a bad thing on the expense side. It's a good thing on the revenue side in terms of sales tax.
When we get fixed guideway money,
Uh-huh.
operating costs, tax rail, that's.
27. 27.
27?
Yeah.
So we still got a ways to go.
Yeah, we're estimating about 7.5 million, something like that. That's a wild guess, though. We're just basing it on our historic patterns and things like that, so.
That's helpful to know.
Yeah, it's better than a sharp stick in the eye, that's for sure.
I have a question that might be more directed towards Kelly, but note 7 is in relation to, substantially due to a large number of open positions. You know, that's every industry, every employer right now, but how is that coming? I know y'all can't do everything without proper help. Hi, Kelly, sorry.
That's okay. We do have quite a few open staff positions right now. They're all in the process, so they're coming along. Bus operations, of course, we're looking fairly well there. Of course, we can always use more, but, we're still.
Feel headed in the right direction. That's what I hear. Good deal.
Yeah, I think it's a historic problem. I think it's a historic issue. I mean, going back a number of years, so it's always a catch-up.
Yeah.
All right, welcome.
Bruce?
Good afternoon. Bruce Lewis is Vice President of Technology. Just want to update you on the few things we've added to the room. If you notice some new cameras, one behind your head there that faces the podium. You have the new one right here that captures all of y'all. Some of the advancements you don't see, besides the green light, which means you're alive and everybody can see and hear you. It turns red, you're kind of safe. But as always, cover your mic just to be extra safe. That's what I always say. This is our first time we're streaming this as a test, so it'll become a streamed live onto the web. People can sit anywhere, they can get an internet circuit and watch us. March event will be truly live. This is our test one. Seems to be everything's going well today. Some of the other features we have is we have multiple types of split screens we can do now. We can have the screen stream, the podium, you all and the screen, you on the presentation and the person. There's 8 or 9 different facets we can turn on or off so that anybody who's watching the streaming can see actually what goes on live and in person.
A lot more ways to embarrass yourself.
Well, just smile, look good, make sure your ties are straight, all the basics there. But so test is going well. No problem so far that we've seen. So next month, when the light goes green, you will be live for everybody to watch. Any questions?
Generally speaking, if that light's green, these mics are hot.
The mics are hot. They're hot and recorded and live coming next month. Okay. Thank y'all.
All right, we'll move into the action items. We've got 7 action items, and then we'll go into an executive session after some reports.
So very quickly before Phil starts. Turn the mic. Before Phil starts, and the mic is on. This is, we did an information item last month. There are, and Phil's probably going to say this too, but there's 30 slides in your packet. We're not going to do all 30 slides, okay? So Phil's going to do a handful of those, but feel free to ask any questions on those slides after the fact. But this is something that we need to get approved today so that we can get it submitted to FTA. So I'll let Phil.
All right. Thank you, Chad. As Chad mentioned last month, I gave y'all an information item and went over a lot of the topics that are in the Title VI program already. So in the interest of time, we thought it's not necessary to go over everything today, but I did want to highlight a few things for you. So on page 31 of your packet is where my section starts. Can you go to slide number 3? Oops. All right. All right, so each 3 years we have to turn in this report to the Federal Transit Administration documenting our Title VI program and an analysis of how we've done over the previous 3 years on our previous Title VI program. And so this slide here kind of documents some of these sections that the Federal Transit Administration likes to see in their Title VI reports. So they want to know about the representation on this very board, for instance. They'd like to see a public participation plan, which we talked about last time. They'd also like to see us have a language assistance plan for people who do not speak English very well. So we have that. They also want to see copies of our service standards document, which this board approved back in September. So you already know about the service standards. But part of that is we also go through and do an assessment of that set of service standards. So that's a very large section of that document, of the Title VI document, is the assessment of the service standards. They like to see us have an assessment also of all of the major service changes that we've done in the past 3 years and an equity analysis for each of those service changes to make sure that we didn't have any unintended consequences, because we're not going to change things detrimentally for people on purpose, but sometimes things happen and there's kind of carry on consequences that you may not have foreseen. So we do these equity analysis. They also insist we do a fare change equity analysis, but in this case we didn't do any fare increases over the past 3 years, so we do not have to have one. They like to have us do a little bit of documentation about the customer satisfaction, which I talked to y'all last month about, and then a little bit about travel patterns. Pull my page here. Sorry, I didn't practice this with it in my right hand. Can we go to slide 7? All right, so our language assistance plan, that is attachment N of the document. So hopefully y'all had a chance to review the document that was sent out as a link to you. It's a 388-page document that kept growing throughout the process as we had added more attachments. So that was attachment in as the language assistant plan. But we do document in here how we have a contract with a company to provide three-way telephone interpretation. So if anybody calls our customer service line and needs to be assisted in another language, we can connect with an interpreter. We also have ways that we can connect with interpreters. Our supervisors in the field know the same number. They can connect with an interpreter if necessary. We do have Spanish-speaking people on staff, so we don't have to use the interpretation for the services for Spanish because we have people on staff. But for all these other languages, we also have to do an analysis of how our demographics have changed over the last 3 years. And in this case, we had added a number of Arabic-speaking people in our service area. So you'll notice that on our website, we actually have a language assistance page on our website with a bunch of documents that are downloadable in other languages. So like if you're applying for access paratransit, then that form is going to be available in multiple languages, and a number of other key documents are available in multiple languages. And this year we've added Arabic. Actually, I've got that out to be, the translation's being done right now, but we will get those added. Can you go to slide 13? All right. Back in September, when we talked about the service standards, we also had a slide in there that talked about the service availability and how 53.6% of our population actually has access to transit service. But I wanted to highlight that the Federal Transit Administration is primarily interested in our access to bus stops defined as within a quarter mile of a bus stop. So that's what this particular slide is actually showing. And that's actually a good story because while our service area is very large and we can't cover everything with our fixed route bus system, we do have the zip zones that expand this beyond the 34.9%. But when looking at just our bus stops, the minority population, 73.9% of our minority population is within walking distance of a bus stop. Slide 17, please. 17, please, yes. All right, Wayne had mentioned earlier about that we will be replacing a whole bunch of shelters and benches over the coming 3 years. And so this actually will have some impact on our distribution of amenities for minority and low-income populations. And I wanted to highlight that what's in the current document, this current submission to FTA, is only describing the way the current benches and shelters were allocated and evaluating the distribution of those current. So as we go in and develop this program to replace all of the benches and shelters, and as Wayne mentioned, and as y'all asked, do we have the correct balance of benches and shelters? We actually will be looking at that, and we'll be looking at a new method or a new criteria for distributing the amenities. And we're also going to have more different kinds of amenities. Our current only has details on how we distribute shelters and benches, But since we're going to be adding all of these new different types of things, there'll be a full-size shelter, but then maybe there's going to be this little mini shelter with an awning and 2 seats, and there's going to be digital signage and things like this. Since we'll have all these new different kinds of amenities, those will have to be considered within our service standards. So we will probably be coming to you before too long with an update to the service standards document, which is where that criteria is documented. And then slide 24, please. All right. One of the things that we have to look at is our public participation, and the FTA is very keen on knowing that we have reached out to the public and that we have involved the minorities in all of our decision making. And so I wanted to highlight that we did, over the 3 years, we did actually 20 different public meetings. A lot of that was regarding our system redesign, which was a very major project, and we had 3 rounds of 3 meetings each with a meeting for the final draft, and in fact, 3 meetings of those we did entirely presented in Spanish, which was kind of new for us. So we wanted to make sure that we reached out and to that Spanish-speaking population. But even when we have meetings like the service standards public meeting or Advancing East Lancaster that are not directly involving an impending service change, those are opportunities for people to come and talk to us about anything, and they typically do. We get people that come into a public meeting that have their own something that happened to them recently that they wanted to talk to us about, and they bring those topics to us. It's just another opportunity for people to come and talk to us about anything when we have a staff available to a public meeting like that. And we did have a public meeting on this Title VI program, and that's this slide deck that you're looking at here is actually basically the deck that we used for that public meeting. And slide 30. So we did, as I mentioned, we had a public meeting on this very topic, and we did some things that were a little bit new, trying to start implementing parts of our new public involvement plan. So we actually did live stream this meeting. So this was on YouTube. Hopefully, maybe some of you actually got to watch it on YouTube when it was on February 6th. We live streamed it, and we did reach out. Our marketing department reached out through a number of different ways, social media, and so forth. And these are all the different ways that people are available. It's available for people to contact us. We have a hotline. We have people filling out comment cards and so forth. And I wanted to mention that the comments that we received we documented all the comments that we received, and those are actually attached as attachment O, not attachment N. As I mentioned, this document kept growing as it went along, and so we had to add another attachment since the slide was prepared. But it's attachment O to the document that that Christine had sent you the link to. And with that, I'll accept any questions. Oh, do the recommendation first? Okay.
If there are no questions, the chair will entertain a motion to ask the president for this report to the FTA.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, anyone? The motion carries. Thank you, Phil. It's a lot of work. Okay. Rishi, let's take some action.
All right, we're going to talk about BA item 2023-18. It's continuing construction management services for Trinity Railway Express, Trinity Lake Station, and then we're also adding construction management services for the parking lot constructions. Trinity Metro issued a task order number 11 in the amount of $900,000 to Jacobs to provide construction management services for Trinity Lake Station. Again, as mentioned earlier, our project is running a little bit behind, roughly 6 months. So we would like to retain Jacobs through the duration of construction. We're also going to ask for a new task order for construction management services for basically 2 parking lot constructions consisting of 495 spaces. The cost of these authorizations are included in the overall Trinity Lake Station budget, which was approved in the FY 2023 capital budget. For the recommendation, the Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorizes the President and Chief Executive Officer to issue a change order for Jacobs for task order number 11 to increase the current authorized task order amount by $620,358.58. The revised not to exceed task order number 11 amount will be $1,610,358.58 for construction management related to the station. The second item is to issue a new task order for Jacobs for $296,180 and a 20% $59,236 contingency for a not to exceed amount of $355,416. And that's again for construction management related to the parking lots. Any questions?
Any questions about either of these 2 items? If not, I'll accept a motion on both items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve BA 2023-18 and 19. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
19.
Mr. Chairman, he didn't present 19.
Oh, you didn't
There were just 2 items in 18.
There was 2 items on the first board action. The second board action is for trans systems for design support during construction. Okay.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on both of those items, and no discussion. So both items have passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Then Wayne, got 3 items here.
I do. I have 3. Let me start on number 1. If you turn to page 65 of your packet, you will go and you'll see item BA 2023-15, Herschel R. Payne, HRP, Transportation Complex, generator replacement, and Trinity Metro headquarter new generator. So it really is pretty clear cut. We have generators at HRP. They're old. Number 1, they're old. Number 2, they only provide limited amount of service to both of those facilities. I will harken you back to the days where we had a big ice storm 2 years ago when everybody told me it was warm in Texas. And and we flipped on the switches that day when electricity was down in the state. And we had limited light and limited ability to do anything with regards to work. So that's what we're talking about here, getting replacement generators at an HRP facility so we could have near normal conditions if the electricity went out. And same thing with the headquarters here. We're talking about the generator. We're running a generator. If you would go over into the parking lot, just on the other side of the building here, you would see a rented generator. And again, it's limited. It provides a limited generation. I'm sure Bruce would like to have a nice generator so he could power the IT systems that we have located here at this building as well. So this action item is to request Trinity Metro Board of Directors to approval to issue a task order to Freeze and Nichols, an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity consultant, which we have as a part of our program, to provide final design and construction phase services to upgrade the power systems with new generators for HRP Transportation Complex and Trinity Metro Headquarters building. The financing, the cost of the authorization is included in the HRP grant improvements and Grove Street improvements project. It's also in the budget, which was approved in the FY 2023 capital budget. And on to the recommendation, therefore, we request the Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorize the President and Chief Executive Officer to issue a task order to Freeze and Nichols, Inc. in the amount of $534,680 and a 15% contingency of $80,202 for a total not to exceed amount of $614,882 to provide final design and construction phase services related to power systems upgrades for HRP Transportation Complex and Trinity Metro headquarter buildings. Any questions?
This is to replace completely the natural gas ones we already have, or to add to our capacity?
To replace.
And will they tie, pardon my ignorance, do we have a natural gas line that feeds here, or do we have a natural gas tank?
Line.
It's a big one.
Huge line.
I'll accept the motion for BA 2023-15.
Motion. Second.
And second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Wayne?
All right, on to page 66 of your packet. You will see BA 2023-16, bus stop shelters and amenity improvement projects, request for proposal RFP support services. So earlier on, we talked about the bus and bus stop amenities, and now we're going to move on to the next phase, and that is generating an RFP. Remember, I said I'd like to get it out on the street earlier so that we could come back to the board in June to present what our final recommendation is and with a board action. So that's what we're coming here to talk to you about. The majority of the shelters are over 15 years old and suffering from faded and peeling powder coating, as well as wear and tear, evident in the repeated repairs. And also, the style of the existing amenities do not convey the brand image nor wear the livery colors established in 2018. So we have a color palette that marketing has developed years ago in 2018, and our bus stop currently do not even match that. So we're trying to modernize, provide safety, provide security, provide information, and meet our branding. Attempting to do that through this board action. So Trinity Metro issued task order number 5 to Freeze and Nichols, Inc. in the amount of $50,000. One of its indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity consultants to evaluate the possible amenities available in the market and narrow them down to a few choices that fit within the envelope of the existing bus stops site. We also want to monitor I'm sorry, I got lost there for a moment. Trinity Metro will brand image as well as technical requirements such as Buy America. Trinity Metro is currently installing 4 prototype bus stops along bus routes 1 and 4 along Hemphill Street to allow for public and stakeholders' input to assist in the decision with the amenities to include in the RFP. This action item is to request Trinity Metro Board of Directors approve to issue a change order to the Freeze and Nichols, Inc. to continue assisting Trinity Metro with the development of the request for proposal solicitation related to the bus stop shelters and amenity project program. The financing. The cost of this authorization is included in the overall shelter replacement project budget, which was approved in the FY 2023 capital budget. We have followed all the procurement procedures as approved by the procurement department. And on to the recommendation. Therefore, we request that Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorizes the President and Chief Executive Officer to issue a change order to Freeze and Nichols for task order number 5 to increase the current task order amount by $162,547 and a 15% contingency of $24,382 for the total not to exceed amount of $236,929 to assist Trinity Metro with the development of a request for proposal solicitation for the bus stop shelters and amenities replacement program. Any questions?
I hate to be the guy today, but I'm having fun. I would also ask that when Freeze and Nichols is doing this, thoroughly support this. Can we ask them to also do a little bit of a study of the recycle value of the bus stops we're ripping out? I think that could, while minimal in true overall savings, I think it could net us a little bit per bus stop in the demolition and recycling of those metals. Might save us a couple $100 per stop, and every penny counts.
There are some FTA guidelines to follow with regards to disposal, since it's FTA dollars that we spent. We'll make sure that we follow that, and actually, we'll all need to go to auction. But, I mean, we might get some fair...
Practice at home.
That's right. There we go.
What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve VA 23-16. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Wayne?
Okay, on to my last one. Turn to page 68. You will see item number BA 2023-20, which is the Metro Area Transit System Corporation, or in other words, known as MATS. So I'm going to go a little off that script for a moment just to give a little update as, well, what is MATS? Because some of you on here are probably going, really, what is MATS? I never heard of that before. And what it is an organization that, an LGC, Local Government Corporation, formed years ago by Fort Worth Transit Authority to handle some business of Fort Worth, FWTA at the time, or the T. And one of the things that it was organized to handle was the property purchased in Arlington. There was a people mover project. That's what it was originally set up to do and what it was originally set up to handle. Some business outside of FWTA's needs at the time, but yet there was a need for some organization to handle it. That's where we placed it. That's where many meetings were handled or put on an agenda and handled by MATS. So that went along for many years, and that property actually still sits in MATS. I think Chad's looking to sell it, but that's where the property sits right now. Ultimately, there was another purpose. A couple years later, actually, when AJ was here in TexRail, and Fred were working with Vintage Railway, and they had to get some insurance for PTC, and that's handled in MATS as well. So ultimately, just so everybody understands what MATS is, we put it down in writing so that you understand, other than that little explanation. Metro Area Transit System Corporation is organized to aid, assist, and act on behalf of Fort Worth Transportation Authority, or in other words, Trinity Metro. Trinity Metro is seeking approval for the attached MATS amended and restated Articles of Incorporation, which are attached as outlined in the bylaws approved by Trinity Metro Board of Directors in the appointment of Richard Andreski to the MATS Board of Directors. So I do want to say one other thing, just so it's clear. It is an organization that can do business and operate services if necessary, but policy always comes from this board. So a policy would be dictated down from Trinity Metro Board, and then MATS as a contractor, because that's in essence what they are, a contractor, would then also agree and pass so that operations can continue and on a day-to-day basis and following the policy that Trinity Metro Board approves. So that is really what we're trying to do, is get this all reconstituted. We're updating the bylaws. There's some bylaws that have to be updated by actually MATS, and this is the incorporation that we have to update with the state because we changed our address. We had Bob Balser was on the board, no longer here, so we're updating with Rich, and that's what we're here talking about today. So on to the recommendation. Therefore, we request Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorize the President and Chief Executive Officer to sign the amended and restated Articles of Incorporation for Metro Area Transit System Corporation and the appointment of Richard Andreski to the MATS Board of Directors. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Charles.
I think this is a little fuzzy, Wayne. I think there's some things.
It's a holding company.
What?
It's a holding company. They own the land. That's it.
But they also contract for unions and so on and so forth.
Well, not that I know of, but it's holding property right now. What is Matt? Matt says that land in Arlington, that's all?
Right now, yeah. They own the property in Arlington, and then there's a
PTC stuff?
There's a 1% interest in the Vintage Railway for insurance purposes for PTC.
Right, so we could help the vintage folks take
Exactly.
advantage of our insurance capabilities.
Exactly.
It's really a cool idea. Grapevine appreciated that.
Right.
Certainly did.
Sorry, that's all, yeah, Charles, probably could do other things, but it just holds the land.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, if I could just weigh in here. There are other things that we are considering that we would like the Trinity Metro Board to consider in terms of the MATs, the future of MATs and their relationship to Trinity Metro. Can we just clarify what the board is specifically authorizing here in this action?
Yeah, so right now what you're authorizing is the incorporation documents that we have to submit to the state, and it's updating them. That's what we're asking today.
Right, so the authorization today is expressly to amend the existing articles of incorporation and add me as a director?
Correct.
All you're doing is filing it with the Secretary of State, right?
Correct.
Before the meeting, I shared with Charles some other ideas around the MATs and what we might want to do with that organization in terms of, I won't get into the details here, but suffice it to say that subsequent action we would discuss with the board.
Absolutely. Any other action with MATs would be discussed with the board.
So just to be clear, currently, MATS is really a vehicle for holding property.
Currently.
And you'll come back to the board if you expand the authority of MATS or you expand the relationship of MATS with Trinity Metro.
Correct.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
I don't think there's any urgency here. If you want to continue with your own.
Well, the only urgency, I thought there was a state filing deadline that we were.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have MATS has to have a board meeting, number one, but we have to have these articles filed first. Then we have to pass our bylaws, MATS meeting, and those bylaws once passed, then we meet all the requirements that have to for that continuing organization.
So, in regards to BA 2023-20, a motion to approve, this is just a formality update to make sure we get the right names on the right slots. And I think you said this is also the update to the Groves address, or was that our previous?
So no, that's what we're doing now.
Right, so motion to approve the state address so we don't have state people coming here asking questions.
Second. Yeah, motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, how about what?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If everyone please turn to page 74, talk a little bit about trains. This is item number BA 2023-17, Wabtec PTC Maintenance Services Agreement Change Order for Processor Upgrades. Excuse me. So the Trinity Metro Board of Directors approved BA 2021-20, establishing our contract for the Regional Positive Train Control Maintenance and Support Services. As you're familiar, over time, the equipment becomes obsolete. And that's basically what's occurring right now. So we currently have a TCM, which, as you can see, that's a train management computer that's on board our trains, and it's becoming obsolete. And Wabtec is the provider of our PTC, so we have to go through them. And they are now introducing the CPU-1900, and that's going to provide the working RAM memory that we'll need in order to maintain our PTC. So this change order will essentially authorize Wabtec to perform the required upgrades on 34 train management computers that we use for TexRail and TRE, and the breakdown, as you can see below, 8 for the primary use on TexRail and 2 spares, and then the TRE primary 19 with 5 spares. Overall cost of this, as you'll see, is $544,000, and we followed the procurement policies, and finances are available in the FY23 TexRail and TRE budgets. And our recommendation is Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorizes the President, Chief Executive Officer to utilize board-approved contingency to execute change order number 1 to the Regional Positive Train Control Maintenance and Support Services contract number 21-009 with Wabtec Railway Electronics for the upgrade of TexRail and TRE train control processors in the amount of $544,000, with Trinity Metro paying $352,000 for TRE, for TexRail and our TRE portion, and DART paying $192,000 for its stake in TRE, for a revised contract amount of $11,171,297, with a remaining board-approved contingency of $518,728.80. Are there any questions?
How's this PTC doing nationwide? What's the scuttlebutt on that?
Nationwide, it's operating as intended. It's doing well. Yes, it is. Huge investment.
What's your pleasure on 2023-17? We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, I believe President's report. Rich?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members, and Trinity Metro staff and members of the public. I have a script here I normally run through, and I realized after I prepared it that I didn't include any update on the winter storm, because with it being 85 some odd degrees out, it seems like ancient history.
Back in Connecticut, or?
Yeah, right. Just a few remarks on that. We came through that winter storm in remarkable fashion as an organization. It was my first storm here as president and CEO. And the team pulled together. There was an esprit de corps in organizing, preparing, and sort of managing through. And I underestimated what a winter storm in Fort Worth was like. It just was a little bit of ice, I thought. And it was a lot worse than snow, to be honest. Our team did a phenomenal job. We kept buses on the road just about throughout the entire 5-day event, with the exception of a 36-hour period. TexRail operated and TRE operated without interruption. It was exceptional. We were out and about together with the team, got to see everyone on the front lines, rode with Ron Newman for several hours throughout Fort Worth. Just an incredible way in which this organization handled that. We served 15,000 customers, and many of them, and this I learned on TexRail, many of them were headed to the airport. And the airport was canceling all sorts of flights, and they were canceling the flights not because of ice on the runway, but because of the challenges in getting airline crews to the airplanes. So when we think about our role in Fort Worth and Tarrant County, it's not, as some might say, a social safety net. We are a core cog in the regional economy. Flights to Tokyo left on one of those days, and I know this firsthand because I talked to the crew, because TexRail was there. Had TexRail not operated, that flight to Tokyo more than likely would have not operated. So let's just think about that for a moment and what our role is here. It's pretty profound. I can't say that enough, and I just want to give everybody my gratitude here, the gratitude not only to our team members here, but also to the board members and all of your support. So thank you. On to my remarks. This month is Black History Month. It is a time to reflect on the unique role Black Americans have played in our proud nation's history. In celebration of Black History Month, we are fortunate to host Ms. Opal Lee, a well-respected local civil rights leader, at TMP Station a few weeks ago. Ms. Opal Lee shared her stories about growing up in Fort Worth, her motivation to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, and her views on the struggle for equality and justice for all. Her fortitude, perseverance, and care for fellow citizens is exceptional. Thank you to our Trinity Metro team members, many of you in this room, including our board members who were able to participate. Also, I would like to recognize Deetra Whitmore for putting together the event, and Anthony Fuller for stepping in to interview Ms. Lee. It was an extraordinary day for Trinity Metro. In other news, we continue to move forward on the long-range strategic planning for Trinity Metro. I had an opportunity, joined by Chairman Davis and some members of our leadership team, last week to meet with Mayor Matty and the City Council to provide them with an update. I shared great news about record ridership and near-term projects to enhance the customer experience and further increase ridership. My key message to City of Fort Worth leaders was, how can Trinity Metro be helpful? Again, how can Trinity Metro be helpful? It is a straightforward question that generated lively discussion and expressions of support by several council members. Our conversation with the city further reinforces our conviction that Trinity Metro is relevant and essential to our city's success, now and well into the future. We will be continuing this discussion in our own upcoming executive leadership team retreat in a few weeks. Also, I want to recognize Andy Taft and Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. for inviting us to speak with the Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. board about streetcar. Fort Worth streetcar, or urban core rail, as some have called it, polls very favorably across the spectrum of age, gender, political affiliation, urban, suburban, rural, you name it. Chairman Davis and I had an opportunity to begin a new conversation about the role streetcar can play in economic development, tourism, and walkable, livable neighborhoods. There are more efficient ways to move people, but arguably no better option to create strong, vibrant communities. Our discussion with the DFWI board concluded with the board's approving a $10,000 commitment and a letter of support for our study. Our general planning consultant will evaluate options, alternatives, and the economics of such an investment and report back to this board and our study partners. And last but not least, I want to do two things in recognizing our team. One is the murals at the back of the room. You'll see we have new photos of our team, and this is another example of our leadership team. We meet weekly. This came up in the course of a weekly meeting, and Melissa and team ran with it. Brandon Poe and Nate Newby and others collaborated to put these murals, and the great thing about these is they don't become stale. Over time, we can update the photos to reflect the latest and greatest of Trinity Metro. So really, really proud of what you all have done with that. Thank you. And I also want to give a special recognition to Erica Phillips, HR specialist. Erica, are you in the room? You can stand up. Erica has been working hard to become a certified professional in human resources, and yesterday received the great news that she successfully passed her exams. Erica is an essential member. I didn't warn Erica, so. Erica is an essential member of the very smart and capable human resources team. Thank you, and Mr. Chairman, this concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Rich.
Jeff, if I can just add something. Last week I was in Grapevine for a meeting, and on the way back when I jumped on TexRail, the car I happened to jump on, there were 8 American Airline mechanics on it. Of course, you can tell the mechanics by their attire and the backpacks and the lunch bags. But anyway, we were talking, and they were telling me how appreciative they were of TexRail and the fact that they ran during the storm there. Said that their supervisor was especially happy because they were at work. They were happy because they didn't lose a day's pay. So it made their families happy. Their boss was happy because they were there and they were able to, they're mechanics, but although there were not that many flights coming in and out, they were able to catch up on some of the work that had been sitting there. So they were very appreciative, very happy. Also happy with the Facebook and the social media updates that we make because they knew the trains were running. Their boss in the staff meeting also encouraged some of the other guys to maybe move on the TexRail line to make it easier to get to and from work. So thank you so much, and thank you for the team for all they do.
I think in a nutshell, that's what public transportation does. Everybody wins. The people with the job win, they get to the job, and the people that need the workers, they win too. It's all about moving people and economic development. And in a nutshell, Tito, that's exactly what we try and do. So thanks for that story. I just wanted to follow up Rich's comments about long-range planning, and just a quick comment about urban rail and about transit in general. The Real Estate Council did a poll of the voters, and this time it was within Fort Worth, I think, and registered voters in Tarrant County, and 78% of the respondents at all levels approved of spending the funding necessary for urban rail. 78%. I was blown away by that statistic at all levels. And I think we've received some interest from the business community in certain corridors to make this study, to talk about its economic viability. And it's a challenge. There's a capital cost and there are operational costs, and we've been through this before in 2010, and there's great support within the community. I can't tell you that all the universities, the hospitals, all the chambers of commerce, the public in general, and you just had a council that didn't get it. And I think this is a different council. They're beginning to understand the importance of transit. And I want to challenge you, as Ben has challenged us. This is a process. It's just not about streetcar. It's about getting more money for all services. And this is our long-range goal, and it's not going to be so long-range. But I'll make sure that everyone here at this table has the benefit of knowing where all the communities exist and have their own organizations, where all the churches are, and we'll have a road show that we can talk about transit in many different ways and languages. So my challenge will be, we're going to develop that, and it's up to us to go out and deliver that to the neighborhoods. We can delegate. Look, I'm ready. I'll do that anytime, day or night. Somebody wants me to do that in any neighborhood in Tarrant County, I'll be there. And I would hope that we all would do the same for all of our respective communities, whether or not they're in your district. You know, they're going to be 11 council members and only 8 districts available for the board. So we're going to have to cross over, and it may not be in our respective council members' district. We're just going to have to hold hands and do it all together. So this is a long-term process. This buy-in is going to take a long time. So let's start now. TTA, it's a great start. Ben, it's going to reinvigorate TTA, Tarrant Transit Alliance. It's been very successful, and we desperately need that organization for advocacy for transit. So you have the support of this board, I know. So with that, I'd like to move into executive session to talk about personnel. And we'll adjourn this meeting and come back, open up the session again, and if there's any motion to be made, we'll make it at that time. So this meeting is adjourned to executive session.
So Kelly and Christine, if you could join us.
Let the record reflect that we are back from executive session talking about personnel matters. It's 5:40. And do I have a motion with regard to the 2023 Executive Incentive Program or discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Nick said he.
I move that we postpone action on this item until the next meeting, so that we have a chance to get some answers to our questions and become fully familiar with the impact on the organization.
How would you like for us to do that? How would you like to do that? Get additional information.
Well, I'd be willing to submit some questions to Rich.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting. Pick the phone up, say, hey.
We're having lunch this week.
Good. Do I have a motion for continuance?
Charles.
I'm looking for the second.
Oh, second.
I'll have a motion for continuance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
What?
Green light's on.